In Egyptian mythology, a realm shrouded in the mysterious secrets of human civilization. It is believed that when a person officially passes away, their soul must embark on a long journey to be reborn through reincarnation. They must traverse the underworld and stand before the judgment of the gods of justice. However, these underworld judges focus solely on offerings, rather than on assessing good or evil. The criterion for processing a soul is whether they can present valuable treasures or not. The wealthy, buried with abundant riches, can often easily pass through the gates of reincarnation. In contrast, the poor, who have no offerings to present, can only face the fate of their souls dissipating, forever unable to reincarnate. Each phase is overseen by an ancient Egyptian god. The sun god, the supreme deity, is regarded as the protector of life. He wields the staff of light, commanding the massive vessel that pulls the sun across the earth, bringing day and night to humanity. However, this task is not an easy one, as the god must battle monsters daily, repelling darkness and malevolent spirits attempting to wreak havoc. Weary of this burden, the sun god delegated the responsibility of maintaining Earth's order to his two sons. The elder son, Osiris, governed the fertile lands of the Nile Delta, while the younger son, Set, was charged with overseeing the barren deserts, devoid of even a single blade of grass. This unfair division sowed resentment in Set, who secretly built an army to prepare for the day he could reclaim power. On the day Osiris was about to pass his throne to his son, the god Horus, a grand coronation ceremony was held in the square. The people eagerly attended, hoping that the change in dynasty would bring a better life. Meanwhile, Beck, a petty thief, stole the finest outfit from a store to please his girlfriend Zaya, allowing her to wear it for the festival. Zaya was overjoyed, and the two were filled with hopes for the future. The coronation began with resounding trumpets, and Osiris promised the people that Prince Horus would carry on the traditions, ensuring equal opportunities for reincarnation for all, regardless of wealth. But at that secret moment, Set, the god of the desert, appeared. At first, Osiris thought his brother had come to celebrate and warmly welcomed him. Set presented Horus with a horn as a gift, requesting his nephew to blow it. Unbeknownst to them, this was merely a ruse. When the horn's signal echoed, Set's desert army surrounded the palace. Set's intentions were clear. He sought to seize the throne and rule the earth. Yet Osiris, with his benevolent heart, tried to persuade his brother to abandon violence. But Set ruthlessly ended his life. Afterward, he issued an ultimatum: submit or face annihilation. The other gods, recognizing the hopelessness of the situation, chose survival over pride. Horus, however, refused to endure this humiliation. He immediately took up the scepter, determined to fight Set to the death. The two engaged in the most primal form of combat, clashing fiercely. Despite exerting all his strength, Horus failed to gain the upper hand. It was only with the assistance of the Eye of Power that he temporarily immobilized his opponent. However, Set, having prepared in advance, quickly counterattacked. One of Horus's strikes missed, forcing him to seek another opportunity to reclaim his weapon. Yet each move he made was anticipated by Set, leaving him entirely on the defensive. In a moment of desperation, Horus decided to summon the power of the Sky God, exploiting his ability to fly to regain control of the battle. But Set, transforming into a golden jackal, significantly enhanced his strength, leading to an intense stalemate. Horus relied on his agile wings to gradually gain a slight advantage. Nonetheless, Set had already devised a countermeasure. He ordered his soldiers to use a divine mirror to reflect blinding light, disorienting Horus. Caught off guard and temporarily blinded, Horus was quickly subdued by Set, losing his ability to fight completely. Set seized the opportunity to gouge out the Eye of Power, the source of Horus's strength. Furthermore, to secure his position, Set showed no hesitation in attempting to eliminate his rival for good. The goddess of love, Horus's former lover, witnessing this scene, hurriedly pleaded for Set to spare him, offering her own life in exchange. Her plea satisfied Set, who temporarily stayed his hand. Meanwhile, chaos unfolded everywhere. Set's generals transformed into wild beasts, suppressing anyone present. Amid the chaos, Beck and his girlfriend Zaya became separated, while Horus was imprisoned in his father's tomb, never to be free again. After seizing the throne, Set became a ruthless ruler. He mobilized all national resources, enslaving countless people to construct a colossal tower reaching the heavens, a symbol of his power to assert his authority over the sun god, his father. Any god who dared oppose him was mercilessly slaughtered. Not stopping there, Set overturned the natural laws of the world, issuing a harsh decree: all humans, upon death, must offer tributes to the god of death to be allowed reincarnation. If not, their souls would turn to dust in the underworld, forever unable to be reborn. Under Set's tyrannical rule, humanity fell into despair. Many families were torn apart, people scattered, and everywhere cries of anguish echoed from the destitute. Since losing each other at the coronation, Beck had spent 3 years without seeing Zaya. After much searching, he finally learned that his beloved had been sold to the palace architect and was now serving as a maid. Determined to rescue Zaya, Beck stealthily infiltrated the palace, planning to escape with her. However, Zaya, with her strong resolve, insisted that as long as the desert god ruled this land, they would never achieve true freedom. She suggested that Beck help the sky god regain his strength, as only then would they have a chance to overthrow the tyrant Set. Zaya quickly used her position to find the map of the secret passage leading to the location of the Eye of Power. For the sake of their future happiness, Beck fearlessly ventured into the death trap-filled vault. The path to the treasure was guarded by venomous scorpions and deadly mechanisms. The slightest mistake could mean facing death itself. Fortunately, thanks to the detailed map, Beck managed to avoid the initial traps. At the first door, he used the light of a torch to activate the mechanism that opened it. But at the second door, due to a careless mistake, he triggered a hidden trap. If not for his quick reflexes, he might have lost his life. As he approached the location of the Eye of Power, Beck encountered an unmarked third trap. Having no choice, he risked everything and pressed on. The ground beneath his feet suddenly collapsed like a series of dominoes. In a moment of crisis, Beck lunged forward, eventually seizing the Eye of Power but falling into a deep chasm. Luckily, the power of the eye helped him fend off the scorpions and safely return to the palace. However, before he could share the good news with Zaya, they were ambushed by the architect's soldiers. The architect had discovered their plan and ordered Beck to surrender the newly obtained treasure. Taking advantage of a moment of distraction, Beck used the light from the Eye of Power to disrupt their vision, helping Zaya escape. The two of them rode a chariot, hoping for a life of freedom. But their joy was short-lived. An arrow pierced Zaya's heart, fired by the architect, whose eyes glinted with cruel satisfaction. Beck, devastated, dared not stop. He carried Zaya's body, riding relentlessly to the place where Horus was imprisoned. There, he used the Eye of Power as leverage, demanding that Horus restore his strength to bring Zaya back to life. However, the arrogant god scoffed at the request of a mere mortal, intending to use force to seize the Eye of Power. But with only half his strength, Horus could not overpower Beck. Realizing he could not win through violence, Horus relented and agreed to help Beck. He explained that Zaya, having lived as a slave, owned no wealth to offer the Underworld judges. To save her soul, they would have to summon Anubis, the god of the Underworld, for a glimmer of hope. Horus performed the ritual to summon Anubis. However, the god of death showed no deference to the sky god and directly took Zaya's soul away. Beck, distraught, tried to stop him, but it was in vain. He could only watch helplessly as Zaya was taken to the Underworld without mercy. As Beck was consumed by grief, Horus quickly seized the Eye of Power, restoring half of his strength. Horus told Beck that Zaya's soul would take 7 days to reach the gates of the Underworld. If they wanted to save her, they would have to defeat Set before her soul disintegrated. Only by restoring his full strength, defeating the desert god, and becoming king could Horus reclaim Zaya's soul from the Underworld. To save his beloved, Beck decided to place his faith in Horus and join him in the mission to reclaim the lost eye. To defeat Set, they needed holy water from the Milky Way to extinguish the flames of his desert. However, the Milky Way lay beneath the sun god's barge, and Horus, having lost his eye, could no longer transform to fly. He had no choice but to kneel before the eastern peak, pleading for help from his grandfather, the sun god. After his prayer, Horus was suddenly transformed into a golden-headed birdman, spreading his wings to carry Beck into the sky. Before long, they landed on the sun god's barge. However, the searing heat of the sunlight behind the barge was unbearable for mortals. Horus reminded Beck to always stay in his shadow to avoid being scorched. Horus knelt down respectfully to pay homage to his grandfather and asked for his support. The sun god said that all living beings he created were equal. Even his son, the desert god, was no exception. He refused to intervene in mortal affairs, emphasizing that only when Horus cultivated the mindset of a true king could he defeat Set. Disappointed by his grandfather's rejection, Horus secretly took a vial of Milky Way water and returned to the mortal world. But before he could land safely, the sun god withdrew the power he had granted him. Horus, unable to understand his grandfather's intentions, maintained his arrogance and ordered Beck to fetch water. When Beck hesitated, Horus did not hesitate to use force to compel him to obey. Reluctantly going to the river to fetch water, Beck grew angrier with each step and spitefully spat into the vial. At that moment, Set's bull-headed soldiers appeared, capturing Beck and interrogating him about the stolen eye. It turned out that Set had discovered the theft and sent his bull-headed soldiers to track it down. Just as Beck was in danger, Horus arrived to rescue him. Even with only half his strength, Horus easily defeated several soldiers. But due to the overwhelming numbers, he was wounded. Feeling humiliated, Horus grew furious and continued fighting. One soldier took advantage of Horus's distraction and pushed him off a cliff. Without hesitation, Beck leaped after him to save him. In the midst of the crisis, Horus used his divine scepter to lodge it between two peaks, slowing their descent and escaping danger. The defeated soldier returned to report to Set. Without a word, Set beheaded the useless soldier and prepared to send the black and white serpent siblings to eliminate Horus. The goddess of love, aware of the terror caused by the serpent duo, secretly used her magic to locate Horus and warn him. But unfortunately, Set caught her in the act. Enraged by her betrayal, he drew a sword, intending to kill the goddess. In a moment of peril, she quickly used her protective bracelet to open a demonic portal and escape. However, the portal was filled with malevolent creatures that sought to steal her beauty. Only by quickly reattaching her bracelet could she escape unharmed. Afterward, the goddess of love hurried to find Horus to deliver her warning. Meanwhile, Set, left without an outlet for his anger, launched an all-out assault on the territory of the guardian god. Before long, he captured the stronghold, intending to use the guardian god to locate the goddess of love. However, when he overheard that Set was incapable of having children, his fury erupted. Without hesitation, he severed the guardian god's beautiful wings as a punishment and to humiliate her. While resting in the desert, Horus and Beck witnessed a horrifying sight under Set's negligent rule. The royal garden had transformed into an endless sea of desert sand. As they marveled at the scene, the black and white serpent siblings that Set had sent after them arrived. The sight struck terror into both of them, especially since Horus, with only half his divine power, was no match for a direct confrontation. The giant monsters with bloodied mouths advanced rapidly from behind, ready to strike a fatal blow. Horus could only carry Beck and run, but the creatures were far faster. The two hurriedly hid behind a rocky outcrop, temporarily evading the searing flames spewed by the monsters. As the creatures began searching elsewhere, they quickly leapt into a stone pit to hide. However, the serpent realized it had lost its target and began spewing streams of fire into the stone pits, forcing the two out into the open. Beck, understanding that hiding would eventually lead to discovery, decided to risk his life, using himself as bait to distract the monster. When the giant serpent lunged forward, Horus seized the opportunity to attack with his divine scepter. But the serpent's scales were harder than steel, rendering the attack ineffective and even revealing Horus's position. In the midst of danger, Horus cleverly used his scepter to block the serpent's claws, temporarily immobilizing it before retreating to regroup with Beck. After observing the situation, Horus realized that to defeat the serpents, they needed to eliminate their master. He instructed Beck to continue stalling while he sought an opportunity to confront the master. Beck endured moments of life and death, struggling in despair until Horus arrived just in time. Horus leapt onto the serpent, seizing the dagger from its master. With lightning speed, Horus severed the nerve controlling the white serpent. Out of control, the white serpent went berserk, striking everything around it, including its own master, sending them both plummeting into the abyss. The surface structures began to collapse due to the impact, but Horus and Beck managed to escape the chaos. At this moment, the black serpent finally broke free from its bonds and prepared to attack. Before it could act, the goddess of love appeared unexpectedly. The master of the serpent, Fushi, ordered the black serpent to attack her. To everyone's surprise, the creature, always loyal, bowed submissively before the goddess of love. Under her skillful control, the black serpent turned its flames on itself, destroying both itself and its master. At last, the immediate danger was resolved. The goddess of love, aware that Horus and Beck were heading to the desert center to destroy Set's source of power, suggested they seek help from the god of wisdom, the most intelligent deity. After hearing their purpose, the god of wisdom hesitated, unwilling to risk a confrontation with Set. Beck, with quick wit, provoked the god of wisdom into joining their group. Together, the trio made their way toward the pyramid at the heart of the desert, where the decisive battle with Set awaited. When Horus, Beck, and the god of wisdom arrived at the pyramid, they found the entrance guarded by enormous, constantly moving stone blocks. Each block was a deadly trap capable of crushing anyone who attempted to pass. Only Beck, having once stolen the architect's design plans, dared to take the risk. Timing his movements perfectly, Beck skillfully navigated the chaotic moving stones, leaping deftly onto the shifting blocks until he reached the center, where he found the gears controlling the mechanisms. Using his ingenuity, Beck disabled the system, allowing the group to enter the pyramid safely. Inside, they encountered a prehistoric creature, a beast with the face of a man and the body of an animal, guardian of the sanctuary. The creature, fond of riddles, threatened that any incorrect answer would result in death. The god of wisdom, confident in his superior intellect, immediately accepted the challenge. But unfortunately, all his answers were wrong. Each incorrect answer forced Horus to endure the beast's punishments on his behalf. As Horus was on the verge of being crushed, the beast offered one final chance. This time, Beck urged the god of wisdom to think like a mortal rather than a divine being. Finally, the god of wisdom found the correct answer, compelling the beast to honor its rules and grant them passage. They arrived at the center of the pyramid, where Horus prepared to pour the holy water into the molten lava, the source of Set's power. But just as Horus was about to act, he triggered one of Set's traps. The tyrant appeared immediately, seizing the god of wisdom's brain and attacking the group. Beck struggled to retrieve the holy water to complete their mission. However, Set used his words to sow discord, revealing that Horus could not resurrect the dead and that Zaya's soul would never be spared. Set's words caused Beck to lose faith. Taking advantage of Beck's distraction, Set seized the holy water, pouring it onto the ground and extinguishing all of Horus's hopes. Set prepared to destroy the entire pyramid, burying everyone beneath the rubble. Horus used a giant gear as a shield to protect the group from harm. After learning the truth, Beck fell into despair. The goddess of love, moved by Beck's intense love for Zaya, decided to summon Anubis, the god of death, once more. She removed her protective bracelet, sacrificing herself to give Beck a chance. Though heartbroken, Horus handed the bracelet to Beck, asking him to exchange it for Zaya's reincarnation. Anubis guided Beck to the Judgment Peak, where he reunited with Zaya's soul. Beck yearned to feel his beloved's warmth, but the barrier between life and death made it impossible. Despite his pain, Beck accepted the truth and offered the precious bracelet so Zaya could reincarnate. However, just as the gate of reincarnation opened, a colossal beast from the Underworld emerged, wreaking havoc and destroying everything. The entire Underworld trembled. Anubis tried to stop the chaos, but his power was insufficient to stabilize the situation. In desperation, Anubis urged Beck to quickly find Horus, the only one capable of turning the tide and preventing disaster. After obtaining the god of wisdom's brain, Set began his experiments, enhancing his power by absorbing the strengths of other gods. He used the wings of the guardian god, the heart of the god of life, and the authority of the sky god to forge a perfect divine form. Finally, by integrating the god of wisdom's brain, Set transformed into a supreme being with the golden head of a jackal and unparalleled strength. He confronted the sun god, his estranged father, questioning why he was cursed with infertility. The sun god calmly explained that it was a test designed to make Set the strongest, to prepare him to succeed his father without being constrained by mortal emotions in the vast universe. However, Set rejected this reasoning, furious and without hesitation, stabbed the sun god through the chest, stealing the scepter of light, the most powerful weapon in existence. He then used his father's barge to amplify his powers further, doing whatever it took to achieve ultimate power and immortality. Set returned to the Underworld, standing atop the tower he had built. He wielded the scepter of light to command the beast to march toward the Nile, intending to destroy everything and recreate the world in his image. At that moment, Horus and Beck arrived on the divine bird ship. They captured the architect of the tower and forced him to guide them to the summit. However, the slow ascent prompted Horus to climb the tower from the outside, preparing to ambush Set. The battle between Horus and Set atop the tower became a fight to the death. Armed with the powers of multiple gods, Set quickly overpowered Horus, disarming him and bringing him to the brink of defeat. In a perilous moment, Beck used a metal cable to save Horus while drawing Set's attention. Seizing the opportunity, Beck stole the Eye of Power from Set but paid the price by falling from the tower's peak. As he fell, Beck threw the Eye of Power to Horus. Horus faced a choice: reclaim his eye or save Beck's life. In a critical moment, Horus remembered his grandfather's teaching about the mindset of a true king and chose to save Beck over retrieving his eye. But just as they both hung precariously, Set launched one final attack, unleashing molten lava. In a moment of desperation, Horus unleashed his hidden potential, activating the latent power within himself. He realized that true strength came not from external artifacts, but from his determination to protect everyone. Horus regained the upper hand, leading Set to the tower's peak. After a fierce battle, Set was completely defeated. Horus, without hesitation, used the Scepter of Light to end Set's threat. Afterward, he flew into the cosmos, returning the Scepter of Light to the Sun God. With his restored power, the Sun God vanquished the beast, safeguarding humanity from disaster. With Set's fall, Egypt was restored to peace. A young girl found Horus's Eye of Power and returned it to him, fully restoring his vision. However, Beck, gravely injured, could not survive. In mourning, Horus buried Beck alongside Zaya. The sun god, moved by Horus's sacrifice and compassion, offered him even greater power. But Horus declined, asking only that his grandfather resurrect Beck and Zaya. Under the golden light, Beck and Zaya were returned to the mortal world. Before parting, Beck reminded Horus that there was still an unfinished mission, rescuing the goddess of love from the demonic realm. Now understanding his purpose, Horus vowed to complete his final mission to protect those he loved. And so today's story comes to an end. Thank you for watching the movie. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like and subscribe to support our channel. Goodbye and see you again.